Hi guys, and welcome to Sister's Kitchen. Today we're going to be making a beef teriyaki bites bowl. So if you're ready, let's get started. We'll need frozen beef, ginger, garlic, cornstarch, an egg, sugar, rice or rice noodles, soy sauce, peanut oil, sake, Maltose, which is optional, some veggies of your choice, a meat knife, a small knife, a whisk, cutting board, and some rice noodles if your rice cooker dies like mine, a spatula and a sieve, a heat-proof bowl, a pot for your noodles, a wok and a slotted spoon, and a heat-proof container for your oil. So first we're going to work on our sauce, and to do that we're going to start with a little bit of garlic. I like to cut the middle part open and then pop that little middle bit out because that tends to be a little bit bitter. And since I've had to switch the type of garlic I'm using, I now use a couple extra cloves. Normally I use one of those big round ones, but since I'm working with sort of older garlic, I'm going to cut about 4 cloves. So once we've done that, we're just going to grate our garlic into a little container, and the reason why we grate it is because what we want is the juice from the garlic. So instead of putting garlic in our sauce, we're just going to use the juice from it so that it's infused with flavor, but you don't end up with chunks or bits in it. So now for our ginger, we're just going to cut a chunk off, and we're going to cut the outside off, and then we're just going to grate that as well. And the same rule applies. What we're looking for is ginger juice to add to our sauce later. So now we can start putting it all together, and first we're going to measure out about a half a cup of sake, and we can just add that to our pan. Then a half a cup of soy sauce, and then a half a cup of sugar. So as you can tell, it's about a 1:1:1 ratio, but you're going to want to keep everything out because later when you mix it all together, you're going to want to taste it. So now we're going to just squeeze our juice from our garlic and ginger. You can do this by hand, you can also do it between 2 spoons, whatever works best for you. So if you're using Maltose, you're going to want to add that later. So right now we're heating up our sauce, and I use about a teaspoon worth of Maltose just to give it that sort of extra shininess to it, but if you don't have Maltose, don't worry about it. It's really more for the consistency and for the way it looks than it is for the flavor. So you can also just add a little bit of extra sugar. So you might have to add a couple different things to taste, but really you just want to mix it until all of the sugar is dissolved, and then you have your teriyaki sauce. So now we're going to work on our beef. And the first thing I like to do is pat it dry, partly because it's easier to work with and partly because I have frozen it, because that makes it easier to cut very, very thin, and in the end that makes it just sort of softer in texture. So all you want to do is slice it into very thin little bits, as you can see here. So once we've sliced it, we're going to start with our first marinade, and we're going to take about a tablespoon of our teriyaki sauce and we're going to mix it in. Once we've added the sauce, we're just going to cover it in aluminum foil and put it in the fridge for at least an hour, but up to a day. So now we're going to work on our second marinade, and this is sort of a velveting process, and all we're going to do is take some egg white, whisk that up, and once we've got a really nice frothy texture, we're going to add a little bit of cornstarch to it, and that's going to help keep our meat soft and tender when we fry it. So once we've done that, we're going to take our meat out of the teriyaki sauce marinade, and we're just going to add it to our egg white marinade. Then we're going to cover that in aluminum foil and put it in the fridge for, again, at least an hour. So now we're just going to take a quick look at our meat, and we're going to make sure that it's all covered in our egg white marinade. So to start our fry, we're going to fill our wok about 2/3 of the way up with oil, and we're going to turn it on high heat. So once our oil is bubbling on the sides, we're just going to add a little bit of meat at a time. And all we want to do is stir it so that it goes from sort of a pinkish color to a very light brown color. You don't want to cook it or overcook it too much because we are going to fry it again later, but this is just to make sure that it sears shut and stays moist on the inside. And then we're just going to repeat that until we're done with all of our beef. So once we've fried all our beef, we can move our oil into our heat-proof container, and then we're ready for the next step. So first we're going to boil some water for our rice noodles. And once the water's boiling, we can just put our noodles in and get started on the next part so that everything will be done around the same time. So to start our fry, we're going to add a little bit of peanut oil to our wok, and we're going to turn it on to high heat. Once the oil is good and hot, we're going to take our teriyaki sauce and we're going to put about 2 tablespoons in our wok. Now what I like to do is stir it so that the teriyaki sauce starts to bubble a little bit, and then you know that it's really good and hot and will coat our meat very well. So that might take a little bit. Once you see a good amount of bubbles form, you can add a little bit of beef to your wok and flip it around so that it coats in sauce. You want to do this very lightly because the more liquid and watery it is, the more watery and the cooler your meat becomes. And we're just going to repeat this process until all of our meat has been coated in a bit of teriyaki sauce. So once everything's been covered, I like to put all of the meat back in the wok just to make sure that all the flavors blend together and to make sure that it's all hot evenly. So now we're going to work on our veggies, and here you just want to put a little bit of teriyaki sauce in your wok. Let that heat up, and I like to make spinach because it's very easy. You just dump however much spinach you want in the sauce in the wok, and then you just continue to stir it until it's finished. It's super fast, super simple, and it tastes really good. Now, if you're going to make rice noodles instead of rice, what I like to do is add a little bit of teriyaki sauce to the wok, heat that sauce a bit, and then add the rice noodles in, just to give those rice noodles a little bit of extra flavor because they can be a little bit dry on their own. So now we're ready to assemble our bowls, and all we're going to do is put some rice noodle in the bottom. Then we add a little bit of beef to each bowl, and a little bit of our leafy greens. And there you have it, a really nice, really easy meat and veggie bowl with teriyaki sauce. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know if you have any requests. Please like and subscribe, and I hope to see you guys back soon.